Hi, everyone. Welcome to our industry skills talk presented by the Institution of Civil Engineers in collaboration with SUCE today. Today, we'll be covering topics ranging from who and what is the ICE, what is networking, and how to do it effectively before progressing on to reviewing resume samples. There'll also be breakout rooms at the end, and you'll have the opportunity to ask any questions and perhaps have your CV viewed as well. In addition to that, if anyone has any questions regarding membership of ICE or generic questions as well, feel free to message Annie Leverington and she'll be able to answer those questions. And also feel free to put your questions in the chat or leave them at the end for the breakout rooms. So with that, we'd just like to once again welcome you all to this session and especially welcome the ICE for joining us today. Now handing over to the ICE to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Great. I'll just share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Thumbs up if you can. Great. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I won't introduce myself straight away, but we'll get to that and why in a few moments. However, I will start with an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet. We pay our respects to the elders of past, present, and future. So start with a quiz. Does anybody know, who's not in the IC, who these two people are? You can pop it in the chat if you have an idea. Anyone? Fancy a guess? Well, I'll let you know, because these two are the original rockstar engineers. The first one is Thomas Telford. Thomas Telford was the first ICE president back in the day, over 200 years ago, and he was one of the original networkers of engineering and engineers. The second person, I wouldn't recommend the cigars, but he does look pretty cool in that picture. That is Isambard Kingdom Brunel, who was one of the most prestigious and ingenious engineers in history. So I recommend, if you haven't heard of him, to look him up, whether it's just on Wikipedia or get a book from the library. Some of his ideas and achievements were quite amazing. So just a little something for you to think about. Who is this? Interesting person. Different scenarios and different parts of a person's life. Well, that person is me, obviously. And the reason I'm putting this picture up will become clear when we talk about networking later, but I will introduce myself now. My name is Thomas Lee. As part of the ICE, I am the current ICE chairperson for New South Wales. I've been a member of the ICE for around 20 years, and part of that time I've been in Australia, and I've been working with the ICE committee, and 3 of those years as chairman. I'm also a dad. I'm married. I have a young boy, 4 years old, and I'm also a Star Wars fan. So I was one of the original Star Wars fans back 40 years ago when it first came out, and I'm still a fan today, and that's a picture of me and my son dressing up. As part of my job and my career, I'm an associate director with a small consultancy called MCE. We provide professional services, engineering, consultancy, commercial to whoever needs us. And I'm currently working for Sydney Metro, where I'm the engineering project, director, project oversee the engineering design for all aspects of City West, and I've heard of Sydney Metro. If you haven't, I'd be more than welcome. I'd be more than welcome to come and have a chat to you about that at another time. Who are ICE and what do we do? So the ICE formed over 200 years ago in a small coffee shop in London. In 1880, a small group of young engineers met in London and founded the Institution of Civil Engineers, the world's first professional engineering body. That just shows what the pedigree of the ICE and how long we've been going for and what we've been doing in those 200 years. In Australia specifically, we're probably not the biggest professional engineering association with Engineers Australia, but we do still have over 1,600 members. We have over 1,900 in Asia Pacific, significantly more in Hong Kong. We've got 500 members in New South Wales. We used to have around 800 student members, which unfortunately has gone down to almost 50. But we'd like to get that number back up, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. In terms of networking, we have over 94,000 members globally. You know, we are the biggest professional engineering body in the world, and we do provide engineering support for a significant number of engineers around the world. So why would you join the ICE? You leave university, or even before you leave university, you're studying hard, you're thinking you're doing all the things you need to do. So why bother? Well, really, it really shows a progression in your career. You get a great degree and you want to progress and prove that you are capable and competent, and developing with the ICE or a professional body really shows your progress in your career. It allows you to develop access to resources. It allows you access to people and solutions. And it also provides support if you ever need career support, a little bit we're providing today, or if once you're a member and you do find you in times of trouble, we can provide some support in that respect as well. It's the first step to become a qualified engineer. There's different levels of membership. The first being student membership, which you can apply for free, which I highly recommend you do. Other than that, you can become an engineering technician, an incorporated engineer, or a chartered engineer. There's also a fellow engineer, which is the highest level of membership, which shows the highest recognition of achievement within the engineering fraternity. Achieving the professional qualifications, what would you need to do that? Academic qualifications, you're all doing that and hopefully enjoying that. When you leave university, you get a job, and then someone will come and say to you, oh, we expect you to do more training and more work. Well, yes, we do, and we do that for good reason, because it's the best thing for you in your career. So get some work experience, develop your experience within the industry, develop your network, develop your management skills. And one day when you're ready, when you fulfill some of the basic professional development criteria around chartership, you can sit your review and become a chartered member. This really gives you a level of acknowledgement of your competency across the world, and ICE is really recognized as a key professional engineering body globally. You know, Engineers Australia is generally specifically in Australia, and it's a great institution in its own right, but the ICE is known throughout the world and does provide a benchmark for engineers, especially in the civil and structural fraternity across the world. So you can become a student member, a graduate member, and a technical member, ICE member, as I mentioned. So why would you get chartered, and what happens once you do get chartered? I'd just like to go back to my career. So I was once a student, and I was once a graduate. And as I developed through my career, I did a number of different roles with a number of different companies. I worked for Lang O'Rourke, I worked for Arup, and it wasn't really until I became chartered, which I really, my career really took off. And once I became chartered, it really gave me the confidence to say I'm ready to do other things. I'm ready to move. I'm ready to, stand on my own as an engineer and say I can do this. So once I was chartered, I've jumped to the wrong side. Once I was chartered, I then went and worked in Belgium, where I was a global facilities manager for a company called Procter & Gamble, which make most of the things in your supermarket. After a few years of that, I then traveled around the world. I worked in Nigeria, I worked in Romania, Italy. I then went to China and built the biggest shampoo factory in the world. I've worked a little bit in Manila, I've worked a little bit in Hong Kong. And after my time in China, I decided to come to Australia, where I've been here for around 10 years. And throughout my career, the IC has been, a foundations to what I do and how I do it. The support of the ICE, as I said, we've got all those members around the world. We've got a really big network. Once you become a member, whether it's a student member or a member after you graduate, you can reach out to us. A membership in London, our membership globally in Australia with Annie, or a local rep like myself or John or a number of others online who can support your career and give you some guidance. As I mentioned, a membership to the IC is free. There's a huge amount of resource online in London that you can access, training, online learning hub. There's even some sponsorship and student prizes which you can apply for. So have a think about that. If you get into it, there's opportunities there. There's also a monthly magazine with some really interesting articles on developments around the world in engineering. So networking. Before I get into that, has anyone got any questions on the IC or what I went through? And I went through that a little bit quickly, but if anyone puts their hand up, otherwise I'll keep going on networking. Okay, I'll keep going. So networking is a difficult thing to get into. Throughout your career, you will be asked to do things which may feel a little bit uncomfortable. Especially as young engineers and young graduates, you may not feel comfortable going and speaking to professionals throughout the industry. But networking is a really big part of developing yourselves and your careers. And doing that in the right way really enables you to find some good opportunities. It enables you to meet some really interesting people. And it's fun. It can be great. When we get out of this pandemic, you can meet socially, you can discuss engineering, you can discuss other things which may be of an interest to you and the people you meet. So that's really why I put that original slide up of me, with my engineering hat on, me as a dad and my dad with my son, and also as a Star Wars geek. So, people you meet and network with, they're human, that they are not just, directors in companies. And when they meet people, and especially young people like yourself, they really want to know who you are and what you want to do and why you want to do it and other things outside of engineering. So focusing on those people and focusing on the right people is really important. And when you speak to those people, really try and engage with them on a human level and a personal level, because you will get much more out of those people than you would if you just concentrate on engineering and engineering aspects of that relationship. So when you go to a networking event like today, if we were meeting in person in a somewhere in the city potentially, don't just be there to give out as many business cards as you can. The idea is to connect, so meet with some people you have something in common with, speak to them, connect with them, and try and develop a relationship with them. You know, it's very important networking that it's a win-win situation. Like, as many of you know, you might get a lot of LinkedIn requests through to you, and most of those, you know, you're never going to meet those people, and you're not going to really get much out of that relationships. But some of them, when they connect with you, they're offering you something. They're saying, would you like to meet me, because, you know, I'm doing this and it's really interesting and I think it could really benefit you. And those are the type of situations where you get a win-win situation, and the type of situations where you, as young graduates, need to be speaking to people within the industry and saying, look, I did a really good dissertation on something in infrastructure, or I did a really great project on this, or I did some great work experience which I think is similar to what you're doing. Would you like to hear about it? And I would say 9 times out of 10 we would really love to hear about that, because we get bogged down in our day job. We're not into the most, you know, we're not into the most innovative side of engineering, which you guys in university are. So really push that and speak to people on a level where you're offering something to both sides. As I mentioned, give before you receive. If you're offering something to people, then in return, you'll probably get something back. You know, I think that pretty much speaks for itself. Also, it's not just about you yourselves. You know, you've got friends, you've got other people who you may know, that it's really nice to connect those people. If you become the spider web in different people's relationships, you'll really get a lot out of that. And before you know it, one of those networks of people that you've connected to will come back to you and offer you something in return. You know, I really think that's a really important thing to do in building a strong network. And it's actually a really, really nice thing to do. And you'll get a lot out of that personally by doing that. That's generally my 4 points on networking that I wanted to touch on. I think, have I got another slide? No, that was it for me. So has anyone got any questions on networking or the ICE in general? Or should we jump into the CVs? Okay, I haven't heard anything, so I think we'll...
Actually, Thomas, could I ask a quick question?
Of course.
So I was just wondering, before you mentioned that ICE has this global outreach, I was just wondering, specifically when it comes to networking, how does that translate for like an ICE member to to benefit from, I guess?
Well, I think you can look at it on different levels. So within New South Wales, as a student member or a graduate member or a professional child engineer, we have a number of different events every year where we come together, we present different topics and different projects. We have fellowship events where the fellows get together. We have student events where members come and meet students. We also have a pretty good Christmas or end of year party where we all get together and have a couple of presentations and have a good meal and a chat. So on the local level, we do that. On a sort of the other end of the spectrum, we have a really strong engineering hub on our internet site. We have forums on that site where you can ask questions. You know, there's opportunities to meet relatively senior people within IC on those forums. You can ask the president questions if you get in the right meetings. So there's a huge amount of connections within the portal and within the ICE internet. Does that help answer your question?
I've got something to add to that, actually. So personally, for me, when I moved out here, and when I've worked around the world as well, when I've moved to each location, I've got in contact with the local ICE group there, and they provide a lot of support. You know, you get to know a social base, help professionally. you get to understand the local requirements and standards, and it's sort of like a mini help network, you know, as you move around with your career. So as I moved from the UK to the UAE and back, and then, you know, back over to Australia, it's always been a really good crutch, I suppose, to lean on, and a framework to build my career. And I don't think I'd be quite where I am now without that support. So from a personal perspective, that's really where, you know, where it's really supporting me, you know, in my growth.
Awesome. That's like quite interesting to hear, and like quite profound for, I guess, people who want to work overseas in the future.
Sorry, Thomas.
Yeah, has anyone else got any other questions? Other than that, I'll pass back to you, Ethan. Shall I? And we'll get into the CV review, I think.
Um,
Would you like me to share my screen? I think I was up first for the CV review. Or,
Okay, yeah, I'll. Can you share your screen?
yeah,
John?
I'll just do that. I'm not too familiar with Zoom. Oh, you've got to close it first. Sorry.
You need to stop sharing first. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my video. My camera, I can't get it to work now, so it's only audio from me when I'm there.
Okay. Can you all see my screen? Great.
Yep.
Okay.
No, I can't actually, John.
You can't. No. It says on screen sharing.
I can.
You can.
I can't
Good.
see it. Sometimes it takes a minute or two.
I can see it, John.
All right. Just to introduce myself, everyone. My name is John Donnell. I'm membership officer and the vice chair of the ICE here in New South Wales. I work for an organisation called KBR, and we're a large global consultancy that provides engineering consultant services to many different industries and science projects around the world. I'm currently working with Lang O'Rourke on the Transport for Tomorrow project, and we're improving all the railways around Sydney. So that's my background. I'm a chartered engineer with the IC and also a chartered geologist as well. So I just want to thank the person who put this example up. I think, you know, it's great you've done it. And that person, I don't know who you are. If you want to contact me outside of this and run through things, I'm more than happy to do that and to help you out. So, and I apologise. This is all completely constructive, and I think it's a good initial CV, but I don't want it to be taken in the wrong vein. It's a good title header. LinkedIn is always a good option to put on here, especially the hyperlink. That's great, and I think they've already set up a personalised one. That's a really good tip. So I'm www.linkedin Jonathan Durnell, and then, you know, no one can take that. So if you get that set up, that's a good option to do, and you don't have a random bunch of numbers at the end. Here, this personal summary, this is the first bit that really hits the person between the eyes that's reviewing the CV. So I would just suggest, you know, picking out any particular areas that you really enjoy and you want to get into. If you're doing civil, maybe you really like pavement design, maybe you like drainage or flood modelling or whatever it might be. And potentially you've done some work experience and you've got that, and you can add it in, or maybe project management. It's also a good kind of area to state your commitment to things like sustainability and safety. It's not just lip service. I think that the entire industry in sustainability is moving that way. We absolutely have to be more sustainable in everything we do, and that UN report that came out yesterday just underlines that. And as engineers, we're really key to providing sustainable future for the future generations. So I think, you know, mentioning things like sustainability and obviously safety is a non-negotiable. It really, you know, helps. So it just kind of sets people in the right frame of mind. You kind of know what you're looking for. It's also a good place. So if you're responding to a job advert or a particular company, you can look at the core values, say. You might know they're working on a particular project, and that's the job they're recruiting for, a particular discipline, and maybe tease out some of the key points there. So, you know, you're making yourself more aligned to what they're looking for. Here, I mean, I might add presentation in, just to show you, you know, you've got communication, presentation skills, potentially some leadership. That's always a good thing to add in if you've got any leadership experience. So yeah, I don't think I've got too much time on the CV, so I'll keep moving. I think we're doing breakout rooms afterwards, so people can ask questions then as well. So I can't see the chat at the moment. Education-wise, you know, it's great. Good that you've got your awards in and all that kind of thing. That's brilliant. I'd also just say maybe pick out the key modules that you enjoy and that may be relevant to the job or role you're looking for. Another good one is just to, you know, say you've got, you know, a driving license, whether you do or not, you know, white card, you know, rail industry worker card. You may or may not have it. If you don't have them, don't worry about it. But if you do, it's worth putting it on. I mean, when you join a company, if you don't have a white card, it's going to be one of the first things that you do. We're going to get one of those, and if you work in the rail industry, you'll certainly get one of those as well. And your employer will pay for all of that. Well, at least they should do. So the experience, I think it's good experience. You could potentially tease this out with a few more of the things that you actually did or and took place when you were in a leadership role and that kind of thing. But it shows an absolutely demonstrated commitment to the industry, and that you're a you know, a diligent person. Another bit you could put in is putting in membership. So if you're a membership of any kind of professional institution, if you're a student member of the ICE, it's free. Pop it on your CV. You might become a student member of other professional institutions. You can put that in. Again, it just shows that you're aware of you know, of your future, how you're going to progress your career, and what kind of framework you're going to use to kind of grow once you finish university. Transferable skills, I think it's, you know, a good section, probably worth doing. Teamwork, yeah, absolutely. Again, maybe put something about leadership if you can, and then just a tip, just avoid any shorthand, abbreviations, acronyms, you know, in CVs. In this instance, I would recommend you use Times. Just makes it's a professional kind of document, to try and avoid that kind of thing if you can. Sometimes you have word limits and things like that, so I would avoid it if you can, but judge each case on its merits. Communication, again, if you've done it in front of any large groups, you know, I would also include written communication as well as, you know, oral, and, you know, report writing, which is mentioned further on down in the CV. You know, great stuff. Any memos, you know, short communication pieces you've had to do, again, good. Yeah. Engineers Without Borders here, you know, kind of really piqued my interest. I'd love to know more about that. You know, what did you do? I think you're in Timor-Leste coming down the CV, but, you know, were you there? You know, what was the design challenge? You know, it was, that would be good to know a bit more about that. I mean, at your stage in your careers, you've got quite a lot on your CV to fill if you've got 2 pages. So if it's relevant, don't be afraid to pop it in and just show that, you know, you've got a good understanding of everything you've done and the transferable nature of that. So you've got a module code here. You know, I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's absolutely great and very relevant. Just the reader won't really know. So again, that's a tip, just to, you know, maybe put in the few core modules that you're doing, so you know what it is. In the technical skills and software section, you know, other mainstream Microsoft products and things like that, PowerPoint, software presentations. You know, also it's worth highlighting other softwares you've used to, you know, in your projects at university. You might use Wallop or 12D or Space Gas. You know, you might use Microsoft Projects or P6 and some project management modules. It's always worth putting those on. Maybe GIS software, maybe, you know, 3D digital engineering stuff. If you've done that, and all of that, you know, I think it's worth highlighting in your CV. So you've got a project here, a research project, and this sounds, you know, actually quite interesting. You know, how productivity is measured across different organisations. You could probably loop that in to your to the summary at the top here. You know, maybe putting something, I've learned this about productivity, and I'd be interested to, you know, look at applying that in my next role or something. I think that's pretty much it. I've just got a bit of this is a short snip of my CV. So it just gives a bit of an idea. I mean, you may not want to put your professional experience in at your level, but just, you know, just gives the reader, you know, a bit more information that they need. And just a kind of a more of an overview of, you know, where my experience and things like that. So, but overall, you know, I think it's a good CV, really good structure, and obviously, the more experience you get, the more that CV's going to grow and morph, and you know, just pick up all the detail and everything we've learned. So I think it's a good one. Does anyone have any questions on anything I've raised? Otherwise, I'll hand over to the next review.
I have a comment, John, to add, if that's okay. If there's
Yeah.
a question. So if you just scroll down to the experience bit, and it's one of my pet things that I look for on CVs, whether it's at a graduate level or even, you know, at the highest level of director. When I see experience, what I want to know is what you were responsible for, what you did, and what you achieve. And I don't mind if that is at a very simple level or whether that's a top level. So if you're what I don't want to know is if you work for Sydney Metro or if you work for someone. I don't want to know what that project was. I want to know what you were responsible for in that role. I want to know what you did in that role and what you achieved. If you put those three things down, you will get the person's interest. You'll say, I did this job and I did something and I achieved something. So I think that's a really strong thing to do, especially as you're gaining experience at the start of your career. I think that's really helpful in getting something that other people won't do. And even some senior people still don't do that on their CVs. That's just my tip. Thanks.
Good tip. I probably don't do that.
Did anyone have any further questions to ask Dicey by any chance? Just before we split off into breakout rooms potentially.
So I have
We have
I just want to ask, I heard earlier, Tom, that you mentioned that we should get to know the people that we network with. Do you know a good way we can transition from like interrogating the people we're talking to become more of a conversation? Do you have any like pinpoints on that?
Well, I think if you're meeting people in person, you just have, as I mentioned, just try and connect on a personal level. You know, ask them questions about themselves and their interests that may be about their earlier career, what they did maybe when they were similar age to you, so you can connect with something that maybe you have in common or something that they've done in the past. And then from that connection, you can really, you know, develop that conversation into developing a more relationship. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
May I add, hi, I'm also from IC, but I moved to Australia almost 3 years ago, and I connected with a committee here. I met them through an event, basically, and started a conversation. I think it's really important to follow it up afterwards with an email. Like if you meet someone and you feel there is a connection here, it's really good to send an email and be like, oh, it was really great to meet you, and add more information, because that make them think that, okay, this person is actually interested.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because I think these days people don't really have business cards like they used to. So if you can follow it with an email, they get your contact details, and then it's pretty much saved. It's a good tip.
Yeah, perhaps another option is following up with a LinkedIn invite and then a message to follow as well. It's a good way to sort of stay connected and keep an easy, accessible record of all your contacts too. So I think I'm supposed to be reviewing a CV now before we go into the breakout, and I think Catalina as well. Is that correct? Or have we run out of time?
No, we still have another 15 minutes to review further CVs. So go ahead, go for it. We'd love to hear it. Okay, all right. So I should introduce myself. So Adam Gaffney from the ICE. I'm the events officer. But, my day job is I'm the transport manager for New South Wales. Also work for KBR. So I'm going to have to ask John why he's working on his CV. I'm sure there's an innocent reason, John. But now, jokes aside, so I'll move on to these CVs now. Just let me know when you can see my screen sharing.
Oh, we can see it. We can see it now. Thank you.
You can see that? Okay, so first of all, I haven't sort of put the comments directly on. I think that was a good idea from John, so hopefully it's not too small. But sort of my first comment was, before I start this, I should qualify this. I'm not an expert in CVs. I haven't done any sort of research on the internet as to how best to present CVs. So I'm sort of talking from my personal experience, having sort of worked in the transport department of KBR for well, almost 16, 17 years now. I've reviewed lots of CVs, so I'm sort of talking from experience and what sort of catches my eye and what's easy for me to review. So, you know, that's not necessarily the same for everybody, but certainly I've seen a lot of CVs, and this is sort of what I think about them. So first of all, I've said nice layout. Nice is not a great word, but I suppose what I'm trying to say is, you know, you look at it, you can see straight away where the education part is, the experience. I like the different sort of hatching and things like that. And also we've got these symbols here, so it's easy to find the email, easy to find phone references, just an overall sort of good layout, easy to read. I also like the fact that it's also on one page. A lot of people are very busy and have lots of things to sort of review. So having it all compact onto one page sort of makes that a little bit easier. That said, it's not a showstopper, and if you've got enough information that you do have to go onto 2 pages, then certainly do that. It's better to get the information down than to cut it down and not include it at all. In terms of the personal summary, I just found that this was a little bit generic and a little bit short. It doesn't have any examples or back up any of the claims. You know, it says third-year engineering student, interested in experienced and expanded knowledge base through creative and analytical approach. I'm passionate about exploring new concepts, ideas, and innovations regarding their built environment, which is great, but it'd be good to connect that to something as to why you want to do that. The next section I looked at was education. Yep, look, that meets all the criteria. but perhaps, is there anything else you can add to that? Were there any awards or any subjects that you particularly enjoyed? The reason I say that is because at this level, when you're submitting CVs against hundreds of other graduates, it can be very, very fine margins between making the cut into the pile that gets interviewed and making the cut that goes into the pile that goes nowhere. So, just add in these little things, why, what your favorite subject was and why, can sort of just be that difference. Also like the fact that there's an intensive studio to practice in sculpture. That's something different, shows something a bit broader thinking, more diverse thinking, not necessarily just a sort of straight engineering applications that we expect. In terms of experience, I made some notes here. So the Cisco Mentor Me, thought that was a really good thing to include in the CV. It shows a commitment to professional development, and that's what we're looking for. We want people that are looking to the future and want to keep developing and improving on themselves. As Tom alluded to at the beginning of his presentation, continual professional development is really important in your career. It'd be nice to think as soon as you finish your exams, that's it, you're all done and you don't have to worry about it anymore. But continuing that professional development really does help you advance in your career. Also, the maths tutor, yeah, obviously maths is really important in engineering, so it's good to show an aptitude in that area. One thing I did note, and this is often a huge differentiator, and that's sort of my next two points. The first one is lacking in industry experience, and I know sometimes it's really difficult to get that industry experience. But just speaking from when I do review CVs, if you've got somebody who has worked in an engineering consultancy or even for a contractor, and they've got, they can write some experience in that field, that can often be the difference, again, between going in the pile that gets the interview and the pile that doesn't. So going to my next point, if you can't do that, that goes back to sort of really elaborating on what you have been doing on the jobs that you have been doing. And that also ties in with what Tom was saying earlier about what you did, what you achieved on that job. And sometimes it doesn't have to be the most complex job. It can just be something that is a fairly mundane job, but you showed an aptitude to improve or do things better, and that will catch the eye of whoever's reviewing those CVs. Also, this CV doesn't really have any mention of any hobbies or interests. And again, it's just those kind of things will be a point of difference between one CV and the next. It might be you're involved in sporting activities or community activities, but often if it involves a team environment, that's also sort of beneficial, because much of what we do involves engineering teams to deliver either construction or design services in engineering. And just a general comment, sort of to use examples to back up any claims. It's easy for somebody to say, I'm a collaborative person, I enjoy working in teams, I'm a high performer. What we want is some evidence of that, something that relates back. And also if you can incorporate some of your personality in that, as to why you did that, why you like doing it, what your interests are, it'll sort of personalize your CV rather than it just being another piece of paper. So I hope that sort of helps all of you in your CVs going forward. But just having the back of your mind that there's lots of CVs out there, and how can you make your CV differentiated from the others. So I don't know whether anybody's got any comments or questions on that.
I just wanted to chip in again, Adam. I think you made some really good points there, especially about experience and your hobbies. And I think you can link those two together. So if you haven't got a lot of experience in industry, you may have some experience from your hobbies, which are really transferable to consultancy or a new role. So, you know, if you're the person as part of your football team or your netball team or your band or whatever you do that's organized the trip away, or you've organized the Christmas party or the barbecue, you know, if you've managed to organize 50 people to pay the money and get there on time and get out the invite, that is a really great skill to put down on a CV, because there's a lot of people who can't do that. So showing that you're proactive and you're keen from experience other than work is a really good thing to put down, and it definitely jumps out to me when I'm reviewing CVs to say, yeah, this person's a proactive guy or girl, and they've shown some endeavor to do things, to do more than another CV. So try and link those two together if you haven't got that experience.
All right, I think it's me next, and I'll go very quickly because I'm conscious of the time. Hi, I'm Catalina. I'm a civil engineer. I'm a tunnel design representative for one of the West Connect tunnels, my day job, and I've been a member of this committee that's the second year, and it's been a great experience. So with this CV, my main comment is this section here. I assume you can see my screen. No one has complained. This person has been extremely busy during school years and has been involved in many extracurricular activities, and I kind of miss all of it because of the way the CV has been formatted. So I would like all that to be a different section and all the items outlined like in a more bullet point format, because we do really care about all these things that differentiate you. So last year I was involved with interviewing students for the internship position for the tunnel engineering group in Jacobs, and we did look at a lot of CVs. It's understandable that you are still in uni, so you're not going to have a ton of experience. No one expecting that you'll be having a ton of experience. We're expecting that you're in uni, you're studying civil engineering, you must be a good student. So we're not really going to focus on what was your score in high school. We expect that you're up there. We will look what you're doing on your spare time and whatever experience you have. I understand you cannot always have engineering experience. So whatever type of experience you have, it is great. You can market that in a way that makes you special, and you have gained some special experience that the other candidates don't have, and that's what you need to promote. It can be anything. And this person had the experience. I'm not exactly sure what they worked at, which place, but he talks about how he learned to do Excel spreadsheets and bookkeeping, which is great because like in engineering, we do have a lot of project controls. This can come handy. Some pet peeves is like here due to, I would like thanks to, because it's a positive thing, not a negative thing, and due to has like a negative connotation. In terms of the skills, I would like more details and something about technical skills, any softwares that you might have learned in uni. Words, I don't know what these words mean. So a couple of words explaining what this is about, that would provide some context for the interview. Assuming you go to an interview, this will attract the interest of the people who are going to interview you and ask follow-up questions. And finally, as Adam said, I would like some interests and hobbies, because that makes you you. And I understand you might be involved in volunteering programs, or whatever other things you might do in uni, but I don't know if that's something you enjoy or something you just had to do. Or the interest is, what you like doing in your free time. And I think I'm just in time. So I'm going to stop there and not go deeper into this.